Hello everyone, welcome to Economics with Mekhala. So today our lesson is about production possibility frontier and macroeconomic factors. In our previous lessons, we actually discussed about some changes in production possibility frontier due to microeconomic factors. So today we are going to discuss about changes which can occur due to changes in macroeconomic factors. So today we'll be discussing about full employment, unemployment, recession, depression, economic growth and economic decline, and also about changes in production efficiency and present and future consumption. Let's have a look at full employment and unemployment. So what is full employment? Full employment is occurring due to productive employment of all the resources in an economy. So if you take employees in an economy, if all of them are employed, that says productive employment of labor resource. So therefore, when we are constructing this PPF, we assumed all the resources are fully and efficiently employed on PPF. A point like point A can represent full employment. If you look at unemployment, that means economic resources are not utilized in its maximum productivity. So at that time, if you consider employment, there should be some people out there in the economy without jobs. So that is called underemployment. A situation like underemployment we can represent from a point like point B or point C. So if the economy is moving from full employment to underemployment, you can see a shift can happen from point A to point B. So try to remember, production possibility frontier will not shift, but a point like point A on PPF curve can move inward. Next factor is economic recession. Economic recession is a short-term phenomenon where there will be a decrease of production due to decrease in demand for goods and services in the economy. So if you take economic recession, during this time businesses may cut down labor because they do not have sufficient orders from their customers to produce goods. So they cannot cover up their business cost like labor cost or production cost. So when unemployment is occurring, people will have low income. Due to low income, the total demand in the economy will naturally decrease. So therefore, a situation like economic recession, a short-term phenomenon, we can represent from a point like point B. So if the economy was on PPF and during economic recession, the change could happen, a shift from point A to point B. Again, PPF is not shifting, but there can be a shift from point A to point B. This shift is inward shift. Next one is economic depression. The difference between economic recession and economic depression. Economic recession is a short-term phenomenon. But if you look at economic depression, that is a long-term situation where economy will be facing economic recession, where the production in the economy is declining over a long period of time. Therefore, an economic depression can result a sharp fall in economic growth. So this will create situations like fall in employment, fall in total production in the economy. So if you look at our PPF, we know the total or the efficient production of the economy we represent on our PPF. So if there is a sharp fall in economic growth, that means the production declines, employment declines, which means our PPF itself shift inward. So if you look at the original PPF represented by B, it has shifted inward due to economic depression. If you compare this with economic recession, during the recession, PPF did not shift inward. There was a point shifting from PPF to inward. But here, PPF itself shifting inward when there is economic depression, because that is a long-term situation where economies are facing a sharp fall in its growth. If you look at a situation where current consumption was future consumption, we all know if you take an economy, our future resources stock is decided by how well we are utilizing resources now. For an instance, if we use all the resources available for us now, in future we'll face difficulties because we will not have sufficient resources for production. So remember, if you utilize more resources for current consumption, and in future there will be difficulties for you. For this example, we have taken a situation where we have utilized more resources for current consumption and for capital goods, and what will happen to production of capital goods in future. Have a close look at first PPF here. You can see the ratio between capital goods and consumer goods, 100 is to 100. So 100 units of capital goods we are producing, whereas 100 goods of consumer goods. So if you look at the shift from 2000 to 2050, in future we will face difficulties because our economic growth is slowing down, because we have allocated fewer resources for capital goods compared to consumer goods. But if you look at the second graph, you can see the ratio between capital goods and consumer goods, 250 units of capital goods and 200 units of consumer goods. So we have allocated more resources for capital goods. As a result, you can see the PPF has shifted outward due to the economic growth, but the distance between two PPF curves is greater. That is because we have allocated more resources. That has created more opportunities for the economy to produce more goods and services in future. So the first graph shows less allocation of resources for capital goods. As a result, the gap between two PPF curves very small. But if you look at the second situation where we have allocated more resources for capital goods, as a result in future there will be high economic growth, so the gap between two PPF curves is greater. This topic is about increase and decrease in production efficiency. So we need to understand, due to increase in productivity of resources, our production possibility curve can shift to the right, because when we increase productivity of resources, we tend to produce more and more goods and services. So increase in productivity of resources will shift the entire PPF outward. So your graph in left can indicate an increase in productivity of resources. But if you look at a decrease in resource stock in the economy, that can decrease the total output produced in the economy. As a result, our PPF will shift inward, or we call it leftward. So a decrease in resource stock can shift the entire PPF leftward or inward. Next topic is about increase in productivity happens only in one sector. I hope you can remember when we were constructing the PPF, we made few assumptions. One assumption is we take only two goods produced in the economy, assuming we produce only two goods. So if you look at the first graph, you can see the two goods we are producing, consumer goods and capital goods. So if you look at increase in productivity only in capital goods, our PPF will not shift like as we see in the first PPF graph, because increase productivity only in capital goods will expand only the production of capital goods in the economy. So therefore, consumer goods side PPF won't expand. But you can see PPF has expanded from 100 to 200 where the capital goods are. So remember, for your PPF to shift completely, there should be changes in both consumer and capital goods. But if there is an increase only in capital goods, only capital goods will expand, consumer goods will still remain the same. So let's assume this happened other way around, where increased productivity in consumer goods happened. So at that time, capital goods won't expand, but in your PPF, there will be an expansion where consumer goods are. So in summary, what you need to remember, when there is an increase in productivity in all the sectors of the economy, there will be a shift in your PPF rightward. The entire PPF will shift rightward. But if there is an increase in productivity happens only in one sector, only for that sector, PPF will expand. So guys, these are the few things we discussed about macroeconomic factors which can influence changes or shifts in our PPF. Next topic is about economic growth. We all know economic growth is a situation where a country's real output is increasing over time. So at this time, all the sectors in the economy are performing well. As a result, our PPF should shift outward. So if you look at the first PPF graph here, from 2010 to 2015, there is an outward shift. That represents the economic growth happened from 2010 to 2015. If you look at the second graph, this is also representing economic growth, but if you look at this graph, only some sectors in the economy has increased its real output. As a result, the entire PPF has not shifted, only goods Y side has expanded. So both graphs are correct. The difference between these two graphs, first one indicates an increase in all sectors of real output in the economy, but in the second graph it shows an increase in real output of some sectors of the economy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you really did, please do not forget to press the like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please press the subscribe button. And I want you to know I have a Facebook fan page called Econ with Mekhala. If you like, you can follow that fan page and gather more information about videos I'm publishing in YouTube. Thank you very much for watching this video.